Hola, Algebra 1. This is Mr. Biney coming at you with another day of notes. So the trivia for today, the fun fact of the day on these notes, is what month has there never once been a tornado recorded in Wisconsin? What month out of the year has there never been one tornado? This is a fun fact from Mr. Berg, by the way. So moving on to what we're going to talk about today. We are going to be solving quadratics using our last method, the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula is right down here. It's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So I know that's a mouthful, but you don't have to worry about that quite yet because all we're worried about in these notes is just the discriminant. That's going to be the first part we want to get down pat before we start getting into using the whole thing. So the discriminant is going to be just this part right here under the square root. That's all we're going to be concerned about today. So the discriminant is going to equal just what's under there, under the square root. So b squared minus 4ac. So that's all we're concerned with for these notes today. So these will be short and sweet. So we scroll down to our first example. So we have x squared minus 8 equals 2x. So if you actually look right back up here for a second, in order to use the quadratic formula, we need our equation to be in this form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we need to get that first example into that form. So we need everything on one side. So all we have to do, because it's a positive 2x, is subtract 2x. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So then we're going to get x squared minus 2x minus 8 equals 0, which was our goal. So we accomplished that first step. Now, thinking back to this equation up here, we have to find all three variables this time, all three constants, a, b, and c. So I'm just going to rewrite this right here for you as a reference. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So I just wrote that right above it, so it'd be nice and easy to identify our three variables. So in order to find the discriminant, which is d equals b squared minus 4ac, we need all three variables. We need to find a, we need to find b, and we need to find c. So to find a is always the number right out in front of the x squared. So in our case right here, there's nothing there. So if there's nothing, there's secretly a little 1 hiding there. So a equals 1. B is going to be whatever number is out in front of just the x to the first. So in this case, our b is negative 2. And last but not least, our c is whatever number is hanging out there at the end all by itself. So our c here is a negative 8. So all we have to do now is we are going to take these three variables that we just found and plug them into that equation for the discriminant. So now our discriminant is going to be negative 2 squared, because that's our b. So make sure that negative is included in the parentheses. It's very important. Minus 4 times a is 1 times c is negative 8. Then we can do this math in our heads, or you could use a calculator. Either way is fine. But negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2, which is a positive 4. And then we have minus 4 times 1 is 4, times negative 8 is negative 32. Because it's also minus a negative becomes positive 32. So then 4 plus 32 gives us, the discriminant is 36. So there's a couple more steps after finding the discriminant to actually using the quadratic formula. but we'll get to that in some later notes. So for today, all you have to worry about is finding that. And in some later notes, we'll see how the discriminant can be very useful to us. But for right now, we're going to stop there for today. And we'll just do one more example. So again, we need everything equal to 0. So we're going to subtract this 21 over. Subtract 21. We'll get x squared minus 4x minus 21 equals 0. And now we can identify our a, b, and c. So our a is out in front here, and when there's nothing there, it's secretly a little 1. Our b is in front of the x, which in this case it's negative 4. So again, make sure you include that negative. If it's subtraction, that means the number is negative. And then c is whatever's hanging out there at the end, which here is negative 21. And then all we have to do is plug them into our equation for the discriminant. So the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So when we plug our numbers in, it's going to be d squared equals negative 4 squared minus 4 times a is 1 times c is negative 21. So then if we just do that math, negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16. And then we have negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times negative 21 is going to give us a positive 82 because the negatives are going to cancel. So then adding those up, our discriminant equals 96. I'm sorry. I lied. Take it back. Our discriminant is going to be 98. 6 plus 2 is 8, Mr. B. And there you go. That's all we had to do for today. So the next couple days we'll get into actually using the quadratic formula and deciding which method to use for solving.